Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me, Doug. Please tell us your full name, the position you occupy, and how you ended up there.
My name is Doug Woolley. I work for Goodwill of Orange County. I've been here for a little over 17 years now. I came to actually Goodwill by way of what's called the California State Department of Rehabilitation. I am, for all intents and purposes, a disabled veteran.
Why is it necessary for blacks to have organizations that parallel a general organization but serve more or less the same purpose?
Well, I think if you look at it things from a historical standpoint, a lot of these same organizations we weren't allowed to weren't allowed to be a part of anyway.
Right. I'm a real estate broker, and the realtors didn't allow blacks in, and that's why there is realtists.
Right. Correct.
But blacks are members of realtors today,
Mm-hmm.
and there's still some that are realtists.
Right.
It seems kind of strange to me.
Right. Well, I think, and a lot of people have issues with organizations that have a color or a race attached to it. I think it gives me an extra added sense of belonging to something that's just a little bit of a natural fit for me. For me to belong to the 100 Black Men of Orange County, which I do, it's, it carries a lot of weight for me. I guess it would be no different than if I belonged to a Masons organization, but it just so happens that I may be, and I'm not, a member of the Black Masons. Whereas these other organizations I may not have been able to belong to in the past.
But not in your lifetime. It hasn't been that way in your lifetime.
Some things change and some things stay the same. And growing up in a small town, I haven't experienced a whole lot of racism or a whole lot of discrimination and prejudice, but I have had my stings of it.
Sure.
So sometimes it's, I think it's a natural reaction and a natural feeling for sometimes people to be more comfortable with and around their own.
Do you think that someday those organizations will dissolve of their own not being necessary? Or do you think that 150 years from now, your great-great-grandson's still going to feel that need?
I think those organizations will always, be necessary. Because it does it adds a certain sense of belonging, and even it grants and solidifies a certain sense of identity, even because I belong to a fraternity that just so happens to be
a black fraternity.
At the black fraternity. That's not to say that there's not white members or other members of color, because there are. It just so happens to be a predominantly African American fraternity.
What is the mission of Goodwill?
The mission of Goodwill is to provide people with disabilities and other barriers the opportunity to achieve their highest levels of personal and economic independence.
Of all the places you could work, why do you work for Goodwill?
I've been asked that several times, and it all starts with the immediate gratification of helping people. Not to mention that I am an immediate recipient or direct recipient of our mission-related services, because that's how I came here. With having the service-connected disability, then I was referred to the California State Department of Rehabilitation, which referred me to Goodwill, and I've been here ever since. A lot of disabilities are not just truly visible or physical, for that matter. I could have a mental illness and you not know. I could be depressed and you not know. Anything that falls within the Disability Services Manual, whether it's a physical disability, a cognitive disability, there are some disabilities that are not very obvious.
In the paper you sent me, you mentioned partnerships that your organization conducts with other agencies. Can you pick one or two or three that you think bear mentioning and tell us a little bit about that?
One of the things is we try to create several different partnerships. One that I could probably speak of is waste management. And certainly not speaking on waste management's behalf. It was a partnership where sometimes you just have to ask the right question. So it's like, well, what can Goodwill and waste management do together? And
And what was the answer?
Well, the answer is simple. Our business model kind of falls around our stores and our donation centers, and that's what people mostly know.
That's what I knew before, right? I thought of meeting you.
My tagline is that we're more than a store, we're more than a donation center. And the reason that I say that is, one, as a part of our mission, we are providing services to people who otherwise may not have those services provided. So as we're helping people achieve their highest levels of personal and economic independence, it's through our training programs that we're able to do those things.
And that's funded by the thrift stores.
Over 65% of our revenue is generated from our thrift stores. So with Waste Management and partnering with them, so let's say that they have their bulky item pickups. So instead of sending that stuff to the landfill, some of that stuff is probably still in good condition, or salvageable condition. And so what we'll do with Waste Management is that stuff that is in fact salvageable, they basically are donating it to us, and we're, the stuff that we can actually salvage and sell through our stores, we'll put it in our stores. So we're recycling and putting it right back out into the community.
Why should the general public care what Goodwill does?
I've been asked that question before too, and I've mirrored that question by asking why shouldn't they care? And the reason I mirror that question is because a lot of people, again, just know about our donation centers and our stores, which are great. But we've been around since 1902, and we were really truly founded on the principles of providing services to people. And we've been doing that ever since. So why should people care? Because whenever you're able to go to one of our stores, you're not paying the same price for the stuff that you will still see in a big department store. It may be gently used and it's being recycled, but it's the same material. It's the same blouse, it's the same shirt, it's the same pair of pants. It's just been passed along. The quality is still there.
How does it impact me, the services you provide to disabled people?
I think it automatically and should impact you because it gives you a different sense of knowledge. Because we all know that ignorance is void of knowledge, void of education, void of information. And what you know or what you thought you knew about Goodwill, at our donation centers and our stores, to come here and to visit with us and see some of the people that we work with will just absolutely blow your mind. Because you'll say, and I give tours of our facility all the time, you will say yourself, I had no idea. We provided a service to over 10,000 people last year. We were able to place over 600 into competitive employment last year. A physical disability and replacing you into competitive employment, or whether, for example, we were able to place some of the people that we're working with in an enclave setting where we may have 3 or 4 of them going to the same job, doing the same thing every single day, and they're having oversight from what we consider a job coach or an employment training specialist to making sure that they're meeting the employer's needs. So it really does, we really run the gambit. The people that we deal with, we never focus on what their disability is. We always focus on what their abilities are, and that's key.
What else can John Q. Public do for Goodwill, other than donate clothes or furniture or such to you, or buy something from your thrift store?
Everyone can open their minds and their hearts to dealing with people with disabilities in general. So for me, I know that I would say, if you're an employer, consider hiring someone who has a disability. Because I know that we go through the entire vetting process to make sure that we are placing the right people in the right jobs.
So what will accrue to my viewer, who's an employer, from hiring someone from you?
So
what would accrue to the employer as opposed to just going through Craigslist and taking whatever comes?
Sometimes there's just that being a good corporate citizen always helps. And if I could take someone who has a disability and give them a chance where society or another company otherwise wouldn't, I'm missing out on a great opportunity. Because we've been able to place people into different types of employment settings, and they've been there for years. One of the things I always say is that sometimes all people need is a chance, disabled or otherwise. They just need a chance to prove that they can do it or not do it. That's part of life, is that experience of successes and failures, disability or not.
I'm going to describe 2 hypothetical viewers to you.
Okay.
One of them is educated, financially well off, they're socially busy in their life. They could be married with kids or not, but they're very, very busy in their life. They got a lot going on.
Okay.
The other person is someone who's maybe not educated. Maybe they're struggling in their life. Maybe they're even serially unemployed.
Okay.
It's all they can do to get dinner on the table each day. Neither of these two people has ever done anything for anyone or anything outside of their own narrowly defined self-interest. They might include their family in their self-interest, but other than that, nothing.
Okay.
I speak to them either together or separately. Why would they want to be of service to something outside of themselves?
Let me speak to the person that doesn't really have anything. That no matter how bad your situation is, there's always someone in a worse off situation. So if you see that man or woman on the street that may need that dime or that quarter, it could be that quarter to call home to get them off the street. You know, to that person that has it all, open up your heart, because you never know when you may find yourself in that same situation.
What other service projects are you currently involved in other than your employment here at Goodwill?
Oh, geez. I am on the Orange County Human Relations Commission.
And tell us what that is briefly.
All right. The Orange County Human Relations Commission basically exists to help combat racism, anti-Semitism, stereotypes, prejudice, and discrimination. It's really all about helping you live freer, fuller lives in Orange County. Hopefully free of those things.
Is there a project that you've worked on with them that seems particularly meaningful?
I've been involved with the organization for a number of years, and the things that we do with the Walk in My Shoes, and you were talking and dealing
what
with
is that?
Dealing with high school kids. You know, and I've spoken at this event on a few different occasions, and sometimes given my own individual perspective, not just as an African American, but as an African American male. You know, sometimes that's a different perspective on life. You know, or just being able to help people be in an environment that's safe, and they can ask some of those questions. You know, like why is your hair that way? You know, or why are your lips fuller than mine? You know, a lot of times people are afraid to ask some of those questions because they may find it offensive. And that's a part of walking in my shoes. You know, and you've been able to share that with the kids or with adults even for that matter, as to, you know, we're all different. You know, but we should be able to enjoy each other's differences, have that mutual respect for each other's differences, because my background, my experience is completely different than your background, your experience. Man to man. Even just our male experiences are different. You know, you were in the Navy, I was in the Marine Corps. As far as the Woolies, I'm probably the highest educated of that group. And, you know, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I'm with the 100 Black Men of Orange County.
What do they do?
Our particular chapter is real big on mentorship. You know, we take young African American men, high school age, and we mentor them, and our ultimate goal is that we are turning out socially conscious and responsible young men. So it's all about making that transition from young adulthood into manhood. You know, and those things, it's not about just coming of age. You know, the days of old, it's about mastery. So if you are, you know, of a particular tribe, you don't make the transition into manhood until you master certain things. So whenever we're working with the young men that we're working with, it's not just because you're 16, 17, yeah, you can drive, but there's still some things that you need to learn about. You know, whether it's dealing with African American history, whether it's just talking and dealing with your parents and understanding gender roles. And understanding some things that because you are African American, there are some things that you may have to face as an African American. You know, so we try to teach them how to deal with those things and be prepared to deal with them, because you may be faced with a racial issue. And some of our young men have actually said that they, have experienced some of those things. Today, you know, we're talking 15, 16, 17-year-olds. And so that's a part of what we do. You know, we are there for them to either put them on the right path or help them stay on the right path and making that transition. It's like that rites of passage. We want to make sure that they are on the right passage into adulthood.